All right, perfect. So are you able to hear me?
I can hear you. Hey, here's a quick question. How are you recording the call? I see Jordan is recording the call. Is that through Skype?
Oh yeah, I'm literally just recording it right through Skype.
Oh, I didn't know you could do that. That's crazy. Huh.
If
Cool.
if you click the little like ellipses or maybe a plus sign, depending on how you're looking at it, you should be
Yeah.
able to record video, and you should be able to do it on your end too as well.
Cool. I know I saw I could download the video, so
Okay,
it just
perfect.
gave me a link. Yeah. Cool.
Perfect. Perfect. So, had a little bit of technical issues there at the beginning, but once again, Lousywith. My name is Jordan. I'm here with Kaare Andrews, the writer, director, author, filmmaker, Schuster Award winner, and we are here to talk comics today. So, Kaare, first off, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us, and I apologize for those technical difficulties in the beginning.
Yeah. No worries. No worries.
So just to kick things off, and the reason why we're initially here to talk is about Renato Jones, because one of the things that you've been doing in the wake of the COVID-19 scare is you went up and put all the PDFs for the back issues for season 1 and 2 for free download through your social. And I just kind of wanted to speak again, what kind of motivated you to do that or inspired you to do that for your fans in the community?
Yeah. Well, this. Let me tell you, this will be one of the benefits of having the first call fail is I can sum it up in a more concise way.
Perfect.
So for the past couple of years, I've been watching more YouTube. I usually watch it while I draw. I like to keep my brain active while I work. And I've always wondered and like made some tepid poking at that space. Like, how could I interact with it? I've had a strange idea of a long time now of like, could you have a comic book reading experience through YouTube? I don't know. I think that would be interesting to explore, figure out. So when this stuff happened, I thought, hey, a lot of people will be at home. A lot of people have some time on their hands. A lot of people bookstores. I have some comics I can just share for free. They're not maybe not the most appropriate comic books because they're so crazy in the times, but I don't have anything else. So here's what I have. So I made 2 videos just kind of giving away PDFs of the book, and then I realized that I probably wouldn't download PDFs from YouTube videos, and if I did download them, maybe I wouldn't read them because I go to YouTube to just watch stuff. So I thought, oh well, maybe I should just read issue 3. So I read issue 3, and that started to get a little bit boring. So I started talking about making the book. So you'll see through issues 3, 4, and 5, I talk more and more about making the book while I'm reading the book. I mean, I'm not an actor, so my performances are a little, they are what they are. But I can talk. I'm the only one that can talk about how it was made. So that's something I can offer people. So for the first 5 issues, the first 2 issues you can download as PDFs. I may do story time and read them later to make a better flow. But issues 3, 4, and 5, you can listen to me and my poor drama skills, but then learn a little bit about how I made the book. I was going to do both seasons all in 10 days, but I've decided to take a bit of a mini break between season 1 and season 2. That's issues the first 5 and the next 5. And I have some other ideas about what I'm going to do to fill up a bit of space in the meantime. I was just trying to quickly record something right before you called. I have this inclination now, like I don't have a lot of time. I still have deadlines crushing me, but I can take 15 minutes a day and just kind of like show people how to create a comic book property, create a comic book story. So I'm going to do my new venture is going to do a little mini segments on just how to spend 15 minutes a day creating your own comic book from start to finish. 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day, something that anyone can do, even the most overworked single parent should be able to find 15 minutes a day. Even the most, the youngest kid, being homeschooled by some crazy parent should have 10 minutes a day they can do something with. So that's the plan.
No, and I honestly think that that's fantastic. I mean, it really, I think, also feeds into your kind of philosophy of, write, draw, create, everything. And it's really cool to see you kind of expanding on those concepts. Now, one thing that I always wanted to ask, because I would assume in some degree it's kind of like a musician listening to their own songs. Like when you read Renato Jones, are you able to kind of step back and just kind of appreciate it for what it is? Or when you reread it, are you constantly kind of like the eternal perfectionist who's like, oh, I wish I shouldn't have done this, or this could have been better, or does that even enter into your mind?
Oh yeah, I mean you're confronted with all your errors and mistakes, but that's just part of the deal. So as I'm reading my book, I'll often be so embarrassed that I'll start laughing because it's when you think or overwritten or done the wrong way or like you constantly have this urge to like start over. Like as I'm reading Renato Jones, I'm like, oh, I should just do this over again. Like this should just be a first draft. I should read same story. I should just redo the story in another draft. But I think that's like look at George Lucas and Star Wars. Like you that urge will never go away. So I try to I live with it. I live with it.
For sure, for sure. No, and I definitely understand what you're saying. I mean, I guess it's you can always chase that ideal of perfection, but you're always going to be chasing at the end of the day. And I think that that's really neat. Now, going back to because really, I mean, I was kind of following along right from the beginning, but as you said, when it kind of took a turn and you began reading it, I kind of gained a completely new perspective on the book because it wasn't only like you were providing like a book on tape, but it was almost more like I was watching a DVD and you were giving like the bonus feature audio commentary. And I was just wondering, like, were you approaching it more with like a film mentality or more like a book on tape, or did you even think about either of those at the time?
Well, I have avoided doing commentary videos on my work because way back when I first started drawing comics, I used to just consume those commentaries like that before YouTube was really around. Before podcasts were really a thing, I would put on DVD commentaries and draw out DVD commentaries all the time, and I loved it because I like learning and I like talking about creativity, and I just overconsumed that product. And when I first started drawing comic books, I actually recorded my own comic book commentary for X-Men Unlimited. I did an X-Men Unlimited book way back when it was like a jam issue with like Scotty Young and Josh Middleton and Troy Nixie and Mike Kunkel, and I recorded a commentary for that book and put it on my website back in the day. So I did try it. I have done like a comic book commentary, and I had like magic chimes to turn the pages so you could listen to it while reading the comic book. But this was not intended to be that. But if it's turning into something like that, that's okay. I think it's probably more interesting to hear that stuff than have some schmuck read his own work on the interwebs. So I've been doing more and more of it. By issue 5, my length of my videos are expanding, and I'm talking more about it. So we'll see. Maybe season 2, I'll. Who knows? I'm not really thinking about it too much. Mm-hmm. I'm just kind of following my natural. I'm just doing it. I'm just not questioning.
For sure. Now, kind of just in taking kind of what you have done, and like I said, because I really, really do think that you've kind of tapped into something that almost, at least as far as my understanding is concerned, like no one's doing this. I've never really seen this in the same sort of way or the same sort of light that you're kind of taking this on. And I was just sort of wondering, because I mentioned it in the article as well. It almost is kind of like akin to like a bedtime story, a very adult, twisted bedtime story. And do you have any are there any favorite books of yours, or are there any authors that you really revere that you kind of would like to see them, or you'd be interested in seeing them do a similar sort of thing at the end of the day?
Oh, so I would love to. Yeah, so many. Like, wouldn't it be amazing to have Frank Miller read Dark Knight to you? Like, or even Todd McFarlane read Spawn to you? Like, that would be so interesting. Like, I think that would be so interesting. Or a writer, like maybe Bendis reads his Superman books or something like that. I find process videos and how things are made as much or even more interesting than the final product. But here's the the downside is this, though. There is a downside. And this is part of why I've kind of clawed back from social media a little bit, is that sometimes I think you can lose some of the magic if you know too much about how something's made. I think, but I'm not sure. I don't quite know. I'm not sure. But I have that feeling, and that's probably why I never intended to do like a full behind-the-scenes commentary analysis of each issue. Even though I'm doing that a little bit, I'm trying not to do it too much, because I do think there's something that you want to leave some questions there, but I don't quite know yet. I haven't figured it out. I haven't figured out what the balance is. So, but I think it's more interesting to hear me talk. Definitely, I think it's more interesting to hear me talk about the book than to hear me read the story. I'm not a trained actor. I don't have the voices.
Well, your accents are definitely improving.
I have one. Every accent turns into the same weird Irish, Asian, Russian blend of just nonsense.
Just a melting pot there.
Yeah.
But no, I think you're right, and I think you make a good point. That balance of giving the kind of supplemental information, but at the same time, I think part of what makes comics or stories in general great is the reader taking away or making their own interpretations, or taking the parts of the story away that they sort of reflect, or that they sort of think have meaning in certain ways. And maybe that's completely right, or maybe it's totally wrong compared to how you kind of intended things to be portrayed. But I agree with you. I think it's important to keep that intact.
Yeah, no, let me just follow up on that quickly. Like Stanley Kubrick notoriously doesn't talk about his movies, and that's part of why they're so magic, and part of why you can imbue so much meaning in them. And the other thing is that if you're really making art, if you're really pushing the boundaries in the artistic sense, if you're not just making a sausage, you don't know why you're doing certain things, and you'll never know why, because you're if this is what you're doing, and art is creativity, and creativity is novelty towards some kind of truth. So if you're really making art, you should be exceeding what you know you're doing. You should be transcending your own limitations. And if that art is meaningful to people, it must be both novel and true. And that means that you're leading them into new spaces. Like real art always leads you into new spaces. So for an artist to be self-aware of what they're doing, they can't be if they're working at peak ability. So there's a lot of, and even if you think you know what you're doing, you're probably doing something else. So again, yeah, there's some kind of, but I can talk about a certain amount of stuff, but some things you just shouldn't even try to understand.
No, I think you put it absolutely perfectly. I couldn't agree more. If I can, I also wanted to kind of pick your brain on a few other topics just while I have you here. Now, obviously, these are unprecedented times. Like comics, entertainment, everyone, no one is immune to this, and no one's really experienced this at all. And I was sort of wondering, the big news that kind of everyone's been speaking about this past week is the fact that Diamond is no longer going to be shipping new books. So I was really interested to kind of get your perspective on where you see comics going, how you see them adapting, and I mean, do you feel like is the solution, like, should they be going purely digital at this time? Should they stop? Should creators be now left to kind of take it upon themselves? Where do you see this kind of going?
Well, I think it's a multi-level question. There's both short-term, medium-term, and long-term ideas, and there's both ideas from creators and ideas from consumers. So I'll say that the immediate situation is that most comic book creators immediately can keep working, because most companies have said keep working. So most comic, I think, are in a very a lot of people work at restaurants, hairstylists, gyms, all that. Like, that's tough, right? So it's what a blessing. Even working in film, what a blessing that comic book creators are used to working alone, are used to working at home, and can keep working. The comic book companies, the ones that are asking their creators to put their pencils down, Valiant, for instance, they're losing their creators. The good creators are getting snatched up by other companies. Any company right now, whether it's Marvel or DC or Dark Horse or Boom, if you tell your creators to stop working, another company is going to snatch away all the good ones. And then when we're out of this mess, you won't have any, won't be working. That's a real danger for a comic book company and a real reason for them not to say that. That's short term. I think this problem will probably be a short term situation, in the fact that I do think at a certain point people have to work again. The economy has to run. There are already countries like South Korea and Taiwan who are getting through this while letting their economies run. They're doing lots of testing, lots of masks. I think it's probably a short-term situation. Medium term, what if it's not? What if this lasts longer than a couple weeks? And what if one of the big companies gets an order from their parent companies to stop? Again, they'll lose their top tier people. But there'll be a lot of people who will be out of work. That's a problem. The medium term is the big problem, because long-term comic books will survive. Like, it's an art form. It survived the Depression. It survived civil rights. It survived Vietnam. It survived 9/11. It's like, comic books as an art form will survive. The good creators, the creators who are passionate about what they're doing, they'll get through it. We've always changed distribution platforms, from newspaper supplements to in the stores to mail orders to direct market to now digital. There will be some space for comic books. There's been a resurgence in the youth market. My kids can't get enough Dogman. That Dogman book is outselling any comic book known to man, because kids like comic books. I remember when I first started drawing comic books, it was like, we have to show people that comic books aren't just for kids; they're for adults too. And now it's like, now they're only for adults. So there's this huge underserved space for kids. Okay, so that's a long term. Long term, we're fine. Long term, fine. Medium term is the problem. I think, just like we've realized with our medical supply chains, it all comes from what happens. Everything comes from one source, and that source closes borders. Well, that's where we are in comic books. Everything's through Diamond. That one company can't function anymore. That's a big problem for comic book stores. That's a big problem for companies. It's a big problem for everyone. I think we've exposed the problem of a monopoly. Even if it wasn't the COVID-19, what if it was some kind of economic failure? What if someone was caught embezzling and they had to shut that company down? That's a huge problem. The digital distribution model, there's not a lot of money there, and that hasn't been growing. It may, who knows? It may grow more in the future. It is okay to read comic books on iPads, but really the best way to read comic books and even novels is in your hands with paper. It's something about that tactile experience that is more interesting and more meaningful than flipping through an iPad. Just like Instagram, the difference is between, like, you can flip through 1,000 Instagram posts in a minute, or you can have a curated collection of art in a hardcover coffee table book. You'll spend like 100 times more. The time you spend with that book is 100 times more than you would just like flipping through Instagram posts. So short term, we're good. Long term, we're good. It's the medium term that has all the questions and all the problems. And who knows what's going to happen? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, and I think that's, it's a great answer. And I agree with you. I mean, I do see this. I mean, it's kind of like the radio, right? I mean, the radio should have gone extinct like 200 years ago, and everyone keeps on saying, TV and computers, and it's still there. And I do think comics, and specifically print comics, are in a similar vein. And like you said, just things that you lose with digital. Like you mentioned it in your YouTube videos, like double page spreads just do not work on digital comics for the most part. You make a really great point about how you kind of age your pages and that you were kind of the first person to do that. And again, that feeling, that tactile touching is lost. So I agree with you. I do think that's important to the art form. Now I know that we're kind of running over your time. We can call this right here, or if I can just squeeze 3 quick questions out of you,
Yeah,
I promise that I'll
sure.
have you on your way.
Yeah,
Okay,
a couple minutes.
awesome. And I promise they're a lot lighter.
Yeah.
I just was really curious. You're saying that you've got a bunch of deadlines, and I was curious what new projects you are working on during this time, and is there a possibility that we might see a Renato Jones season 3 in the future?
I can answer one of those questions. The first question I cannot answer. The projects I'm working on are top secret. There's always some covers. I do covers all the time, so there's always a few covers that I owe along the way. They're great because I can spend a lot of time doing one image, and I can either paint it on paper or draw it on the computer, or I can really experiment, and it really feeds that part of me that likes to do new things in new ways all the time. And they're short-term commitments, so I always do a cover or two here or there. It's the problem with doing covers is like people don't. I remember once I did a year of just covers I did all the covers for the Ultimate line, like Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate X-Men, Ultimate Hawkeye, Ultimate whatever. I did all these covers, and then people are always like, "Where'd you go? You used to draw comic books. I haven't seen you in like a year." And it's like, I've been doing these covers, man. Like I've been doing like so many. I did a whole covers for an entire line of books, the most popular line of books. I did all those covers, and the general consumer is like, "You didn't do anything." I think that's the trap of covers. So I am doing some interior writing and drawing as well, and those things will be announced at some point. And then Renato Jones season 3, no current plans. But that could change. I like the character. I've had in mind a Renato Jones Christmas special that I would like to do.
Ooh, you're speaking my language with that one.
Yeah, I used to love those Christmas specials that, I would like to do one just for fun. Like I would just do it and not even take a paycheck for it. I would just do it, like I like that stuff. So who knows? That's up in the air. But I'm always creating new things. Right now, yeah, just to be TBD.
Okay, fair enough.
To be announced.
Now, another thing I wanted to pick your brain while I have you and your expertise, because I know that you, like myself, are quite the horror aficionado. And I was wondering, what is the last horror movie that you have seen that truly terrified you?
Oh, well, that's Hereditary was the last movie I've seen in a theater where I jumped out of my seat, which was fun because it hasn't happened in a long time, and that was great. Even though the movie's a bit of a pastiche of many things I've seen before, the way it was done felt very interesting, and I think it had great control of pacing and performance, so that was great. But I've also just been watching Scary Stories in the Dark with my son. I've got 3 kids. Occasionally, me and my oldest kid will sneak out after the other kids are asleep, and we've done it a couple times now. Watched this. We're on our second viewing. We just watched a little bit last night, and the movie's great, man. That's a great movie. It's pretty shocking what they do in that kind of kids space. It's like a legit horror movie. It's legit scary. It's pretty cool.
And that's the one you're speaking about, the Guillermo del Toro film, correct?
Yeah, the one he produced it. He produced it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I saw that. I was a big fan, and Hereditary as well. I couldn't agree more. I think one of the best things that a horror film can harness, if they do it well, is the element of silence. And the amount of times where you would be looking at something and then it's like, oh my God, she's on the freaking roof. Like,
on the roof.
What the heck? Oh, it was terrifying.
Yeah. What about you? What are the last movies you've seen that were good in that space?
Boy. Like, I hate to say this, the last one that I saw that unfortunately wasn't that great. Did you happen to see the remake of The Grudge?
Have not seen it yet. No.
So that one I was not a huge fan. I'm trying to think of the last film I saw that like actually scared me. Ah. Oh, you know what? I actually recently watched Audition.
Oh yeah. Takeshi Miike.
Yeah, I had never seen that before. My friend's a huge advocate for Japanese cinema and especially Japanese horror. So that one I really enjoyed. And now
Yeah.
The
I
Ring is
still remember
probably
the sound of the bone saw is still. I've seen that movie forever, but that sound. Yeah, it's great. That's a great movie.
Oh man. And just one last question that I'll throw your way, and then we'll let you get on with your day here. But as I mentioned, Lousywith, we're all about a love for comics, movies, and TV. So if you could throw out one suggestion for a great comic book, I mean, of course, it could be something with your name on it or something without, and one TV show and one movie you think that everyone should watch during this self-quarantine.
Yeah. Well, for comic books, there's a book called Trout by Troy Nixey from Dark Horse. That's pretty amazing. It's pretty cool. He's a good friend of mine. He's been around for a long time. He has a really unique style that's a bit like Dr. Seuss meets, I don't know, Tim Burton meets, I don't know. He's got a very cartoony but dark, like a dark cartoony look that is very interesting. He's very good. And see, TV. Oh, well, we're blowing our way through Homeland right now. I think it's one of my favorite shows on television. And then movies. I don't know. Well, I'll recommend Scary Stories. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. I think that's the title. Anyways, we're on our second viewing, and it's fun, man. Like, it's well made. It's the editing in that movie is so crisp. The creature suits are so amazing. I think it's a cool movie. Like, I think it's great. It's one that's gonna have some shelf life. Like, maybe I don't know if it did very well in the theaters, but I think it did okay. But it's one that will survive the test of time because it's just well made.
Yeah, that scarecrow scene is something else. It's
yeah, like an 8-year-old and the scarecrow scene, the shock happened and it was like, what are they doing? I got to turn this off.
Gotta love those kids movies that aren't kids movies at all.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Kaare, I can't thank you enough for taking the time out of your day to speak with me today. It has been an incredible experience, and honestly, I wish you nothing but the best, nothing but health, and hopefully we'll get through this soon.
Yeah, thanks, and congrats on the new venture. Good luck with the new venture, and do it again.
Well, thank you so much. And
okay.
So I'll stop recording right now.